Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to wNS9 Plus. I'm your host, Anthony DiNardo. With me, of course, we have Jim. We have our special guest tonight, Eno Sarris from Rates and Barrels and The Athletic. So welcome to the show. How's it going?
Doing great. It was a good day for Pittsburgh Pirates baseball.
It was.
And there's some people still kind of mad about it, but they won. It was an outstanding pitching performance. Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot of fun watching that game today.
I mean, I like that. That people want no hitters, and I like those moments. But I think one of the things that I know about fatigue and like how teams are modeling this is that there's a whole thing about acute to chronic. So you need to like build up the ability to go to certain places. So there's just no way that they would go to 115 or 120. It's not that 100 pitches is where you stop. It's that 100 pitches is what people are built to. And so if you go past that, you have to have a great reason. And usually that great reason is it's the playoffs, not just a single game. And I know that leaves no hitters to the side, and he probably could have thrown a no hitter today, but I think anybody else also knows that there's a limited amount of innings that they're going to allow him to pitch this year. And do you want those 2 innings there, or do you want another start? Do you want to start in October? You know what I mean? Like I think in Pittsburgh, I think a lot of this was like, people getting mad online about analytics and that stuff. I think in Pittsburgh, you're like, did we win the game? Is Paul Skeens still has his arm attached? Then that was a good day.
Yeah, I saw articles about how the Pirates robbed baseball fans of a great moment, and it's just like, come on, guys. First off, the Pirates don't owe anybody on the national
That's
level
it, right?
anything.
What do the Pirates want to do? They want to win and they want to get to October. I mean,
we don't owe you anything. You've been shitting on us for 30 years.
Yeah.
We don't owe you. We don't owe you a no hitter. Now it would have been cool. I mean, he was rolling today. I agree. I think he probably could have gone out there and gotten 6 more outs. But like you mentioned, it's just like the end goal here is for Paul Skeens to be pitching like this later this season and later in his career for the Pirates for hopefully many years to come. So
it's also my understanding from some sourcing that they don't think that there's much more than sort of 130, 135 innings in there for them this year. So
well, that's coming soon.
Right. And that's like every 2 innings, those 2 innings are really precious.
Right.
If you think about it that way.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I know. Like, I was just on the sense of, what is his second start? I think he went 6, no hit, and then he's poor in that start. And that one I fully understood. I know there's a lot of people that are upset about that, but like it was 100 pitches, it was 6 innings. He had a lot more outs to make. He didn't look as sharp, I felt like, in that time too. And he also, like, he was just being built up. Now this time it's 7 innings. He's been pitching close to 100 pitches almost.
Did he have today?
Was it?
He was at 99 pitches today.
I mean,
99.
Yeah.
I don't know. The max he's done is 107. So I mean, he's like sort of building towards that, but I don't know. I remember,
and that's why I say, like, at this time he's built towards that. Where that second start, I think his maximum was like 78. So like there was no reason for him to go there. But this one I felt like, okay, there's a little bit of an argument. I don't know if I love it this time. Yeah. But like you said, the end goal is to win, which they did. And you still have Paul Skeens here.
Johan Santana,
I know,
threw a no-hitter for the Mets in 2012. No, that's not right.
We even mentioned that on the it was Neil mentioned that on the post game show. That Santana no hitter, he threw
2012.
He threw a lot of.
It's like 143, I think he felt.
Yes,
it was something crazy.
Too much, dude. This is not the right. Is it 2012? He threw it in his last year.
Is that right?
That's what I'm seeing. So 2012 is no hitter, and 2012 was the last.
It kind of sounds about right. It derailed his entire career.
I mean, like he finished when he was 33. So like, I don't know, man. I prefer wins. I think no hitters are. Then again, I haven't ever sat through a no hitter live.
I mean, I don't think the Pirates have had one since that Francisco Cordova, Ricardo Rincon game in '97. I think that's the last one. So it's been a while. It's been a while.
I mean, that's part of my point too. Like, who? Like, I mean, that's not like a Hall of Famer, at least. You know, it's like there's a lot of people who throw no hitters where you're just like, what? You know, when Tim Lincecum finally threw a no hitter, it was like at the end of his career, and he threw 145 pitches, and there were like he walked 6 guys. It's like Edwin Jackson has a no hitter when he walked like 7 guys. It's like, I'd rather get the win.
AJ Burnett.
That Edwin Jackson. Yeah, the Edwin Jackson. AJ Burnett had another one like that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, let's so we brought you on because obviously the Pirates are stacked right now with pitching. And you
Chandler.
and you and some others at Fangraphs. You developed. I think it did officially come out last year. The stuff plus pitching plus location plus.
I've been working on it for a while. The best version of it came out 3 years ago, but yeah.
Okay, so essentially for the lay people listening here who may or may not know really what that is, let's just kind of dive into, hey, what is Stuff Plus? So you see it all over Twitter. We've talked about it in games, especially when it comes to Jared Jones a lot. So we talk about it. Stuff Plus, location plus, pitching plus. What is it? Why did you all come up with this? And like, what's significant about this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm an old, so 2008, I was reading a piece by a guy named Jeremy Greenhouse who went on to work for the Cubs. And it was called On That Stuff. And I'd been kind of, yeah, he does. I'd been kind of known for splitting pitches apart into their types and saying like I was a big early guy on Carlos Carrasco. And one of the reasons I was early on him was like, hey, his slider is really good. If you look at the whiff rates on it, his changeup is really good. Like, this stuff sounds really rote now, but I was doing this when Carrasco was like a rookie. So I had always been fascinated with like sort of taking the pitcher into parts and like looking at the pitches each separately and then putting them back together and saying, oh, this guy could be good. He has the pieces, and then I read this piece by Jeremy Greenhouse where he took pitch FX data and he turned it into a stuff rating. So he was talking about velocity and all we had back then was velocity and movement. And that's all he had. And I think Verlander was really high on his list. And I was like, this is cool. This is the future. And so ever since 2008, I've been researching, pitch by pitch. So I just looked at what makes sliders good, what makes fastballs good. And so I was looking at fastballs. Oh, velo, duh. But like, we had ride. So I was like, oh, ride is good for fastballs. That makes you get pop-ups, you get whiffs. Okay. Then I looked at sliders. And I was like, oh, velo again, duh. But like, we thought sliders were more about movement. No, velo is really important. Velo and drop, And so I kind of went through each of these. Harry Pavlidis over Baseball Prospectus was doing something similar. We were all kind of researching them piecemeal. And then just what happened with machine learning is that, and I don't like that it's a black box, but now that we can basically throw all of the information that we have about pitches, the physical characteristics of pitches, we can throw that into this box and the machine sort of figures out how it relates to outcomes. And the reason that's important is because sometimes you'd rather have your like cutters, you'd kind of rather have them be closer in velo to your fastball because you want them to look like a fastball and then just move it the last second, right? Mm-hmm. And so you want like them to be close in velo. Some other ones like the big old, Charlie Morton, Adam Wainwright curveball, velo is not as important. It's like a changeup almost. It's like a really big pitch. So all of these movements and velos and spin is really important. All these things interact slightly differently in different ways. And I wish I could tell you exactly what makes everybody's pitch good or exactly why everyone's good, but I can tell you why I think, like Skeens, for example, we all talked about how his shape is bad on his fastball. And some people thought that would be a big deal, but you're like, but dude, he sits 99. Like like, it's not going to be a problem. Maybe it's a problem when he's 30 or 33 and he's sitting 93 and the league is sitting 96 because that's kind of where we're going,
Right.
then then all of a sudden, his shape on his fastball is a bigger deal. But anyway, so Stuff Plus is the physical characteristics of the pitches, and that includes spin and things like seam shifted wake, which I can explain if you want, but just different things that go into it. Location Plus is just a count and pitch type, like adjusted. Do you throw to the right locations? We're always tweaking it and trying to improve it. And now there's an arms race. Baseball Prospectus has one. There's you'll if you go online, you'll see lots of different Stuff Pluses. I still think ours is the best, but we're all trying to improve on. We're all fighting over little decimal points right now.
Yeah.
But that's the general idea. And Pitching Plus actually is not just add Stuff Plus to Location Plus. It kind of is a third model that looks at all these different aspects, the command and the stuff, in a third way, and just sort of adds it all up its own way. So you can't, sometimes you'll look and you'll be like, why is his Stuff Plus this, his Location Plus this, and his Pitching Plus this? It has to do with like platoon splits, and the machine is looking at it and being like, is it better to be fastball slider or fastball curve change, or so it's kind of looking at it in a third way.
Yeah, we're gonna kind of nerd out here today, I think. OG here in the comments has a question, just like a technical question. Does the model continuously run? Does it get updated periodically? It's a continuous model, like as data kind of feeds into it, right?
Yeah, it's a continuous model. There is a little weird bump. I think the thing that it's kind of closest to is something like an expected WOBA, because what it needs to do in any given year is look around all of baseball and compare this guy's pitches by its physical characteristics to all of baseball. So early on in the season, it's the aces pitching, right? So if it's just comparing aces to aces, you'll find in the first week that maybe an ace has like a lower Stuff Plus than you expect, but it'll like normalize after time. So it's basically a nightly model. I wouldn't say it's like, we don't get sort of updates right after games and stuff, but it's a nightly model that runs and it looks at everything and spits out a new number.
How have you seen like how are teams using this data?
Yeah. So most teams have them. I've had people talk to me about how they wish theirs was as good as mine. So some are catching up. But at this point, I think the teams that care have caught up. There are teams that still don't care. The teams that care use it for scouting, to find, and the way that it's actually really, really effective, the way that's the strongest is relievers. If you're looking to acquire a reliever at the trade deadline, or you're looking to sign someone off waivers, or you've seen one of these videos that someone's throwing, at tread and they haven't signed yet, you not only want to know the velo, you want to know the movement stuff, so you can throw it into your stuff model and say, oh yeah, maybe we should sign this guy. And because relievers have really small arsenals, they're not that complicated. They're as good as their fastball and their slider. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It gets a little bit more complicated, I think, for pitchers, starting pitchers, where you're like, well, does he have multiple fastballs? Can he do this? Can he play off this? Can he pitch backwards? Can he do all? So it gets a little bit more complicated, but they use it for scouting. They use it for picking up guys. They'll use it at the trade deadline, especially to compare a guy to himself. So like, is this guy hurt right now? Are we acquiring a hurt guy? Like, how does he look? Is Max Scherzer really back or not? Because Scherzer could have like a good game or two, but he could not all be all the way back. And so you'll look at his stuff numbers. But the biggest way that it gets used, and I think this is why it's exciting, is that if you're developing a player, you're developing a pitcher. I think in the past they were like, well, you want a curveball? Like, here's AJ Burnett's knuckle curve grip. Like, try that, and so they would just cycle through it, and then they'd have to like throw it and maybe get bashed in, and then be like, well, not that one, and they wouldn't really know if it was good. They would have to kind of try it. And, I've had pitchers be like, I can tell if it's good. I don't know, man. Like, can you tell ride, really easily? Can you tell, 16 inches of sweep from 14 inches or 12, like I don't think these like this level of precision is really that obvious. What Stuff Plus does is say, these are good pitches. These are good combinations of pitches. These are good pitches that play off each other well. If you want your slider to be better, do this. Like, make it harder with less drop. Like Sonny Gray was like, oh, I figured out for my sweeper, I need to make it harder with less movement. That's maybe not intuitive, because the sweeper is like, everyone wants the big movement. Well, Stuff Plus says you throw it harder. That'll make it better. And you could instead of just like trying everything and seeing what works, it's more like, hey, if you get 2 inches of more ride or 2 inches more sideways, or do this, kill the vert, do this. So that's why you hear pitchers talking the way they do about their pitches. They'll talk about, I'm trying to get more vert, or I'm trying to get more sideways, or I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that. It's partially because of the Stuff Plus revolution. So it's really about like kind of improving our understanding of what pitches are good, so you can teach players to better their pitches.
So I'm going to throw a little bit of like a loaded question here.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a good point. Because also with this comment here, kind of alludes to this, right? Analytics has ruined baseball. And I think this actually is said a lot on the other side of what we're talking about, the hitting side, right? Because everyone talks about exit velocity and launch angle. It's like, just make contact, just hit the ball, right? Just see ball, hit ball. And I think a lot that comes down to it is like, we now have data to understand what makes the best of you. So we're talking about these pitches, like you just said, pitcher thinks this is really good, right? It feels good, but it actually isn't. If you do this though, you can be the best of that. And now you're getting the perfect pitch. And like, what I think you're really seeing is, it's not so much that exit velocity and launch angle has ruined baseball, but because you have this information that we're talking about, the Stuff Plus, these pitchers are crazy these days.
Yeah.
You know, like, is that what you're kind of feeling this to be? Is like, just pitching is just so good right now because everyone can just, well, not everyone can do this, right? But like, everyone knows what they need to do now to perfect their pitch, their craft. That's really what the issue is.
I think there's a little bit on the hitting side too. I mean, you know, what analytics is just is people trying to make the player better and trying to make your team win. And so on the pitching side, they'll say, hey, you know, you need more drop on this, you need this to be hard, or whatever it is. On the hitting side, what analytics has said is, if you look at it, you know, you can look at something like exit velocity. If you hit the ball over 95 miles an hour, your slugging percentage is like 700. If you hit it below 95 miles an hour, it's like 300. Which one do you want? You know? So, you know, with the analytics, we've been a little bit more like, oh, these are the good things to do. And so that's made everyone kind of gravitate towards those things. And so those things in pitching is throw as hard as you can. You know, I know this upsets people, but this is literally what the analytics says you should do. Throw as hard as you can. Throw your breaking balls as hard as you can. Throw for 5 innings as hard as you can, till you get another guy in there who throws as hard as he can for an inning, and another guy for an inning. You know what I mean? Like, that's what we see in baseball today. And you know what it says on the hitting side? Hit the ball as hard as you can. You know, and if you look at it, strikeouts are actually not that well correlated with team success. So if it's like, well, hit the ball hard, like, could I strike out 24% of the time or could I strike out 20% of the time and not hit for great power, or strike out 24% of the time and hit 30 homers? Which one's going to get me paid? You know,
that part,
which one,
for sure.
You know, which one? And analytics wise, you know, the analytics guys are, yeah, we want the 30 homers. You know, I take a couple extra strikeouts. Give me the 30 homers. We want that, because slugging percentage is more tied to team winning percentage than on base percentage. So teams are like, we want the slug. We want a slug. We're going to throw as hard as we can, and we're going to hit as hard as we can. And yes, that leads to strikeouts. And on some level, that's been part of it. But it's a little bit like, I don't want to get political, but like war on drugs or war on terror. It's like, it's a war on a concept. If you're going to war on analytics, it's a concept. It's never going to go away. You can't ban analytics. You can't ban data. It's always just the idea that we're trying to help this team win. We're trying to help this player get better. We're trying to help this team win. So the only thing you can do, I think, if you do think analytics have ruined the game, then you should be pro rule changes, because the rule changes are baseball trying to create an environment where the analytics lead them somewhere else, and they come up with a different answer. So you're just not gonna you're not gonna stop people from trying to win. You're not gonna tell the pitcher to throw softer. You know, you're not gonna tell the hitter to hit it softer. You know. Now, there is one Luis Arias, but there's one, you know.
Right.
Right. Like, teams and players are always going to look for the edge. Like, what's going to make me the most efficiently ran team that we can possibly be, right? And so that's where this comes into play. I think where it comes into play, like with fans and stuff, I mean, I get it. Like we see strikeouts numbers kind of going up, and it's not super fun to watch
Batting
a
averages
game
down.
where, you know, no one's putting the ball in play, no one's hitting the ball. You know, if you do hit the ball, it's like once or twice a game you'll get a homer, and that's like the only action that happens for a game. So I kind of
Especially if you're a fan of the
it.
Pirates.
Yeah, for Pirates, yeah.
Y'all's
I
offense is
understand it,
hurting a little bit.
but I think for me, like, I think what's cool about it, and like I don't necessarily need him shoved down my throat, right? As a fan, but like when I was growing up as a kid, you know, Barry Zito's curveball, everybody was, oh man, Barry Zito's curveball was insane. It's the best curveball I've ever seen. Well, like now we have a way to actually like measure that. Like, you know, who does have the best curveball in baseball? And so it's really just a matter of like reinforcing the things that I see as a fan with my eyes. Like I'm looking at, you know, the Pirates stuff plus numbers, and you know, we'll get to kind of the Pirates individually, but you know, we can all see when we watch Jared Jones that his fastball is nasty. Like hitters can't hit his fastball. And so it's like, okay, what does Stuff Plus say about his fastball? Well, it says it's pretty damn good, right? So it's just like kind of reinforcing what you're seeing, and it's assigning a value to it. Like Bo Jackson's another person where like people, like I didn't really get to watch Bo Jackson play, but the people who I know who did, you know, talk about the things that he did on a field that they've never seen anybody else do. Well, now we see guys like Ellie De La Cruz and O'Neal Cruz out on the field, and because of these advanced analytics, we can measure basically like their athleticism and just like the insane feats that these guys are able to accomplish.
I'm of that, but I also like, you know, I wanted to be a music writer and a movie writer at one point, and I found it actually ruined movies and music a little bit for me. You know, like people use comps in baseball where they're like, oh, that guy's like that guy, you know, and people use that a lot in movies and music, and I find that it totally ruins it for me. So like, someone threw a comp on War on Drugs, and I was like, oh my god, I can never listen to them again. And like, you know, like I remember Vampire Weekend, someone said Paul Simon. I was like, oh God, why did you say that? You know, like all I can hear is Paul Simon now when I hear that. So, you know, like I get what people say. It was like, you know, sometimes they don't want to think, they just want to watch the game. But I'm a big believer that, you know, if you tell a right story, if you tell a good story, you can envelop stats into that story, and you can make that experience even better. And I think that I think it can be like, it's the same as like, oh, ball, he hit that ball super hard, or he hit that ball harder than anybody's hit the ball this year.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you got O'Neal Cruz, like you haven't got any enjoyment out of the fact that this is a dude that throws harder than almost anybody in baseball, runs harder than almost anybody in baseball, and hits baseballs harder than almost anyone in baseball. Like, it's cool, I think, when you can be like, this is like a Giancarlo Stanton at shortstop, right? Like it's cool,
right?
Yeah,
and it's not just like, you know, it's subjective, it's more like objective. And then the last point is just StatCast. A lot of it is scouting stats. How fast does he run? How hard, like how fast does he swing his bat? Like a lot of that scouting stuff. It's not almost analytics at its core. It's like, we're just going to measure the stuff we can measure.
And like it's the same, like with that, like that to me, that's what's kind of cool, because like you always hear the stories of the past. Like, you know, old Junker Johnson hit a baseball 598 feet, you know, and it's like, did he? Right? Or this guy threw 110 miles an hour. Like, did he? You know, it's like now you can actually like see it and witness it, you know, and it's like now, like O'Neal Cruz actually literally hit a ball 122 miles an hour.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, so like I like that. And like I know a lot of people take it overboard. It's like, you know, it's not like you fall in love and feel like, well, because he can hit 122, he's a great hitter, and that's what you fall in love with. But again, it's just a feat. You know, it's like,
yeah,
wow,
we wrote about the 10 years of
happens.
StatCast recently, and Dave Roberts was like, yeah, some people are looking to light up that board and trying to get those EVs, and it's not necessarily how you win games. So I understand that for sure. But if I'm scouting and a guy hits the ball 120, that changes everything I think about him. You know, like it immediately changes, and from the numbers, it changes his whole upside. If a guy can hit the ball 120, he's different than everybody else. And I guess you could say that. You could look at O'Neal Cruz and be like, he's different from everybody else. I guess you could do that without numbers, but I don't know. I think it adds. For me, it adds. I don't know. For some of them, it doesn't, and I understand. It's cool. I think we can still be friends. We both like baseball, right?
It's just another way to consume the game and kind of if you just hey O'Neal Cruz hit that ball really hard. Like you can if you're completely content with that general statement, then he hit the ball really hard. But if you want to know just how hard he hit the ball, and if he's hit it harder than anyone else this year, like that data is available to you too. So
right,
yeah, I get it.
Yeah, but yeah, as to what it's done to the game, yeah, I mean, there's things I like about the modern game, and there's things I don't like as much. I would like more singles. I just know that singles are really noisy, and they're just they're not worth a lot in the open market. Power is really reproducible. There's guys who hit a bunch of singles one year and don't hit them the next year. You'd rather have the power hitters because they hit for power year in and year out, and that's part of why the game is where it is.
Yeah, it's a good point.
I mean, think about think about some of the singles you've seen in your life.
Yeah, I mean, think about Adam Frazier. Like Adam Frazier will compete for a batting title one year. And then
just be like completely useless the next year, like just not at all useful the next year.
Yeah.
He can hit, Eno.
He can hit. And he always has a job, but it's more of a complimentary job.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, there's another question on here too. Let me try to get up to here. You've talked about maybe one day being able to develop a hitting plus based on swing tracking data. Are there any data points missing to be able to get to that point?
Yeah, I mean, one of the big ones that just when they came out with the bat speed stuff, one of the big things that's missing is contact point. And the reason that matters so much is that power is out in front of the plate generally. And it has to do with your swing comes flat through the zone, and then like everybody's swing ends up higher because of just how your body works. Like you kind of come through and you end up higher. So if you catch that ball out in front, you're on the little bit of the upswing, and so you actually kind of launch it a little bit. So you can be flat through the zone and catch the ball out front and hit it for power. And that's a general sort of strategy for hitters today is be flat through the zone. If I hit the fastball deep, it goes the other way on a line drive. If I catch the slider out in front, it's a homer. I lift it and it's a homer. So that's a big part of what's happening. But if you look at contact point, you say, Giancarlo Stanton has the best bat speed in baseball. He has the longest swing in baseball. Well, these things are related because he's also trying to hit the ball out in front. So he has a long swing that gathers a lot of momentum and gets going really fast and gets that ball out in front. So we would need to have contact point. The other thing that we need to know is a thing called vertical bat angle. And that's just what it sounds like. It's just the angle of the bat as it comes through. And that like a Cody Bellinger, I'm trying to make this Pirate specific. Who has the most uppercut swing on the Pirates? Nick Gonzalez, did he do that?
It's probably Cruz, honestly.
Yeah, it's Cruz. So and then one of the flatter swings is Henry Davis.
Hayes.
Yeah, Hayes has a really flat swing. Yeah. So Hayes has to get, like, if Hayes wants to pull the ball, he has to get the ball out in front. But he's kind of a let it travel flat swing guy. That sort of describes all of Hayes' upsides and downsides. When he's like getting the ball, he's hitting homers. But then maybe the batting average goes down a little bit, and then he wants to let it travel, and he hits a bunch of singles the other way. And I think he's a good player, but that's the struggle that you have with a flat swing. When you have a steep swing like Cruz, what happens is you have more of a hole at the top of the zone, and you can. It makes me sad too. I think he could be like really, really good. He's good.
We all do. He's the most frustrating player on our team.
Yeah.
He has contact ability, hits the ball hard. He's got some legs. He's got defense. If he could just hit for power, that's Hayes?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Henry Davis is pretty flat too. And so, but what happens with Cruz is you get more swing and miss, right? Because he's got a hole at the top of the zone. You got to figure out what to do up there. That's Cody Bellinger. There's other guys that have these. Kyle Schwarber, scoop swing. Got to figure out what to do at the top of the zone because they're always trying to get you out up there. So anyway, vertical bat angle is super important for swing and miss and for power. What's weird is I think he has like okay hit tool, but something messed up in his swing. It's because he came up to the big leagues and his strikeout rate just went through the roof. Triolo.
Well, he also had like a 500 BABIP
for a while. It made it look better, but But in the minors, the strikeout rate was anything like that. And that's part of, like, when you look at pitchers and you look at the minors and they have great strikeout rates, they come to big leagues and don't strike anybody out. I think a big part of Stuff Plus, because they're doing stuff in the minors that works in the minors but doesn't work up here. And we know it works up here. And I think sometimes if we knew, like, bat path for hitters, we would have a better sense of who's going to come up and be good. We would do better with prospects. And I know the Pirates have a bat path grade, and I know that a lot of teams have bat path grades. I know that we're at a point in baseball where it's there and they look at it, and I'm not sure everybody trusts it. Everyone doesn't trust it because when you make a leaderboard based on VBA, there's a site called Swing Graphs that does this. It doesn't always make sense. You're looking at people where you're like, that guy's not good. So, like the sniff test is not quite there, but theoretically I'd have a thing where I'd have bat speed that's adjusted for contact point and like vertical bat angle. So bat shape and bat speed, that's starting to sound like pitching, right? Yep. So you have the shape of the swing, the velo of the swing, and you have all that. That's Stuff Plus. So the Stuff Plus, I don't know, Hit Plus, whatever, that would be the shape. And then I Plus would be the Location Plus, which would be a better way of thinking about a plate discipline. Thinking about, does he only swing at things he can do damage on? Does he, maybe he only swings on a really small thing in the middle, maybe, so, an advanced way of thinking about plate discipline. And you throw those together, you get Bat Plus or whatever,
I like it. Man. So we're going to hear about the 2028 #1 prospect having a bad swing shape.
Oh my God.
And that's why this phenom is going to fail.
The whispers are, and this is kind of relevant for you guys, the whispers are that Jackson Holliday's swing shape is bad.
Right. Oh, well, there you go.
Maybe that's why they didn't give up Jones.
There you go. So John asked here, do you worry that we'll basically just figure everything out and then there just won't be any mystery and baseball won't be fun anymore? Is that ever going to happen?
No, I don't think so, because here's the thing that's happened. So one of the things that happened because of Stuff Plus is the rise of the sweeper, right? They did Stuff Plus models. They're like, oh wow, these sideways sliders that have great seam shifted wake, they do really well. Like, we should throw more of those. And so you saw the Dodgers throw a bunch of sweepers, and you saw the Yankees throw a bunch of sweepers. You saw a bunch of teams. The Seattle Mariners taught sweepers to every pitcher in their minor league system. And what happened with sweepers in the big leagues? Batters started getting better at it. Every year that people have thrown more sweepers, batters have taken more sweepers outside the zone, swung at more sweepers inside the zone, done more damage on sweepers. So every trend is like the cat and mouse is always there. So if we figure it out, it'll take 2 years, and then somebody will have something new, and we'll have to figure that out. So we're constantly kind of chasing our tail. It makes it hard to decide certain things about stats and how you do them. But like, Stuff Plus has kind of opened my eyes to, like, man, this is cyclical. Like, this is always going to be like, sinkers are in vogue again.
It's kind of fashion, right?
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, don't even, like, I'm an old dude. Like, I have shit in my that I've had since 8th grade that people are wearing now, dude. I got these flared jeans, dude. I had these flannels, and I was like, why am I keep that in there? Nobody's gonna wear flannels again. And I think they might be back out again. But there was a time where, like, everyone's wearing flannels again. I'm like, oh my God, I can wear my flannel from 8th grade.
You breaking out your Jinkos again?
Yeah, right, dude. Got my hammer loop jeans, dude. I'm waiting. Someday those will be back in.
Yeah, the sinker is definitely something where, I mean, look at Mitch Keller. Mitch Keller started throwing a sinker, and all of a sudden went from the worst pitcher in baseball to an all-star. So,
yeah, my current theory on my current thing that I think is the trendiest is multiple fastballs. So I think that what you've seen from Luis Ortiz is not only did he ditch the change he couldn't command, but he's throwing a cutter. And so now that's 3 fastballs for him too, right? He throws a 4-seam, a sinker, and a cutter.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And if you talk to Tread works closely with Keller. If you talk to Tread, if you talk to Mitch, he talks about the banana peel. He talks about, like, I just throw a bunch of pitches that move in different directions, and I'm just going to keep alternating through them. He gets in trouble sometimes with the command, I think, but
So you're
the
confirming
cutter.
Luis Ortiz is good again then, right? That's
I
what we're hearing.
I'm in. I always loved the slider. I thought the sinker was really good, and I was just waiting for that tweak to make it work. And I think the cutter is it.
So let's kind of use this to segue to the Pirates, right? Stuff Plus loves Jared Jones. We'll get to Jared Jones, but I do want to talk about, I mean, the man of the day, Paul Skeens, right? In particular, I want to actually see does his splinker almost break your model? Because it's a split finger, but it's not really a split finger. It's kind of a hybrid split finger sinker. Because, like, if you look at run value, you know, on Statcast, it's the best split finger in baseball. You look at Stuff Plus, and it's a below average split finger, right? But you see him throw it, and you're like, this pitch is ridiculous. No one can hit it. So, like, I guess that was one question I wanted to ask you about, was just like Skeens's splinker. Does that like kind of confuse it a little bit?
There is a hint in the name already that why it might give a model problem. It's the name is a conglomeration of a fastball and an off-speed pitch. So no matter if you're scouting or if you have a model or if you're just trying to describe the pitcher to the hitter that night, they're going to want to know what fastballs does he have and what his off-speeds does he have. Where do you put the splinker? And so I think it is hard because as a splitter, it will compare it to other splitters that have more drop, you know, and do fancier things, have different velocity gaps, because a splitter is mostly a changeup in the model. So it'll think that a big velocity gap could be good. It could be like a kind of a straight change splitter, For the most part, it wants lots and lots of movement, and it wants lots and lots of movement to find off the fastball. Since his fastball has that sinkerish shape, it's not going to define itself that well. It's not going to be a power change, Long story short, pitches that are somewhere between fastballs and secondary pitches are hard for the model. Cutters can be. What we decided is we're going to call all cutters fastballs. And that's great for most. But then there are guys whose cutters are like 5 miles an hour different from their fastball. And those are basically sliders. And we've called them fastballs. There's a guy, Spencer Arrighetti. He throws his like 5-6 miles an hour slower than his fastball. And Stuff Plus says, that's a terrible pitch. But I bet you if we just switched it over to slider, it would like it better. So
interesting. Okay.
I think it did fairly well against the Pirates. I'll say that much.
Yeah. So I just say, like, cutter, the splinker it's like a cutter. A cutter is a cut fastball. A splitter is a split fastball, but it acts like a change. So these kind of hybrid pitches, that is the hardest part, because the model wants to find the fastballs and define everything off it, because the hitter is timing to the fastball. So as the hitter times the fastball, everything else is coming off that. They're reacting to the other pitches, really.
Interesting.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And again, like you look at Paul Skeens, and he rates, is it a 111 Stuff Plus, which is good.
It's
but
really
like
good.
It's Paul Skeens, and you saw what he did today, and it's like, that 111, does that really make a whole lot of sense?
Yeah, right. And you have him next to
take...
Jared Jones. You're like, Jones is the 127. Is Jones that much better than him?
Right.
Yeah.
So I appreciate the insight on that.
But Jared Jones is just like made for the model. It's like very, Jared Jones is Spencer Strider, where it's it's like a low release, crazy high ride fastball. Release points are really important in the model, and then a power slider off of that. And the power slider is important because he can throw it to lefties and righties, as opposed to if he was fastball sweeper, he would have to come up with other ideas.
So my question too, since we're on Jared Jones now, we saw his spring, and I think it was really a lot of the Stuff Plus that caught people's eyes. So I want to ask you yourself, like, at what moment were you saying, who's Jared Jones? And I need to watch this guy a little closely.
Oh, we've got AAA numbers, and I texted somebody in the Pirates organization and was like, who the F is Jared Jones as soon as he hit AAA, because we get AAA numbers. And one thing that was weird for me with Jared Jones was, I'm like, oh man, this stuff is off the roof. But like it doesn't really show in the full season numbers in AAA last year, but when he first got there, I think he was struggling with the walks.
Yes.
Yep. That's always kind of been his issue. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that my second question to the person I was texting was like, so what's up with the walks? And he reminded me that it was ABS. And one thing in particular that's happening with the automated balls and strikes in AAA, walks are going through the roof. Strikeouts are also going up, but now they're changing the strike zone in the ABS system to try and see if they can get what they want, And so what they've done is they've reduced the number of high strikes in the ABS system. And if you think about Jared Jones,
he lives there.
Yeah. So Jared Jones hit ABS right when they were like, hey, let's have fewer strikes at the top of the zone. There's too many strikeouts in AAA. So he really struggled at trying to find the top of the zone. When we got to the big leagues, he was like, oh, the high strikes back again. And he's looked comfortable pretty much ever since.
So what you're saying is we should not be cheering for the ABS in Major League Baseball for Jared Jones fans.
No, I'm not a fan generally.
Yeah.
I think it could lead to some weird stuff. I think it could lead to, Sergio Romo, huge sweepers that just barely make this machine go beep, like Rich Hill. I mean, we love Rich Hill. He was, legendary Pirate at some point. Maybe we don't love him.
Yeah,
I love him.
He was.
But we'd have a lot of Rich Hills like clipping the very front of the zone with a curveball, and hitting the plate.
Like gets to that, like hits the dirt. Yeah.
Yeah. And is that really hittable? Is that what we want? Yeah, I think the thing that is most likely to happen that I actually like is the challenge system. And so what you do is you get 3 challenges. Yes. You have to do it immediately. The hitter has to kind of hit his helmet. So you end up saving it for the end of the game, just like, the challenge system in basketball, like they have fewer challenges. So they really kind of save them. And it has to be immediately. And then what happens is it's like in tennis, because it's the same system, Hawkeye. In tennis, when they say, oh, I'm going to challenge that double fault, they put it up on the big board right away. And all the fans go, oh, and they get to find out like a ball or strike or double fault, and they all kind of cheer or yell or whatever. And so it's something that we can all take part in, and it would help us never lose or win a game on a bad call, and I think that would reduce the pressure for umpires to get every single thing right,
Yeah. I think you have 2 people right here that are on board with that.
Yeah,
I love the challenge system.
Yeah,
I like the challenge system too.
Yeah,
I've seen it at the minor league level too, and like you said, it's like it's entertaining. Like when you get the challenge, it's a fun moment. So
yeah.
Other Pirates here. I want to talk about. You mentioned relievers, right? And we have had our bullpen issues kind of throughout the year, and when you kind of dig into the stuff, plus you can understand the team's decisions maybe a little bit. Like Kyle Nicholas, for example, early on was struggling to find the zone, but
kept getting chances.
Yeah, you don't need to. You don't even need to look at the numbers to just see that Kyle Nicholas has some crazy, outstanding stuff, right?
Yeah.
But you look at the model too, and 129 stuff plus. He actually has a better stuff plus than Jared Jones. Third best on the Pirates behind Bednar and Chapman.
Might sound ridiculous, but he's a reliever. I mean,
right? Yeah,
relievers,
relievers are going to be be different. So, I guess is that how pitchers like him keep kind of getting it? They get more opportunities than say a Roansy Contreras, right? Who the Pirates were super high on a couple of years ago. Was a top 100 prospect in baseball. Was in their starting rotation. He makes the team out of spring training this year. And after 16
could
innings,
not maintain the shapes. Like had some of the stuff off, but just couldn't maintain the velo or couldn't maintain the shapes. Like lost the ride on the fastball. I think what might be. I think the thing that is my hottest take It's just that I think that people expect too much command wise from pitchers, and like especially so you can watch a game and you can see, oh, he missed a spot and it was a homer, and so then you might see that once or twice and you say, oh, that guy has no command, and he'll never have it. But the thing is, we've studied this in labs, we've studied this in games, and pitchers miss their spots 10 to 13 inches on average. So every pitcher has bad command. I mean, I'm not trying to say something like super high, it's top taking. I'm just saying like every pitcher has less command than you think they do. And so if you kind of look through baseball through that lens, you're like, oh, so if I can't really know how good a guy's command is in a small sample, and it's not very predictive of how much command he's going to have next week or next year, then I should buy the guy with good stuff. I mean, just look at Aroldis Chapman. This guy has proven to us he has bad command, but
over and over again, every time he pitches.
And that might be a bad example because he has bad command, but in any given year, he can just give you an amazing year as a reliever, Yeah. And so, especially among relievers, I think people will give bad command relievers every shot if they have good stuff, because stuff is more predictive, stuff is more sticky, stuff, keeps showing up at the ballpark. Command can go away for a week. It can come back. Command is flighty. Command is why he lost the game last night, but is not why he's going to be bad tomorrow night, is sort of how I'm saying it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fair.
And I'm not saying that nobody has like better command or worse command. I just said that, like Mitch Keller doesn't have great command. Like I understand that there's degrees of command, but especially among relievers, you're looking at like 10 innings, tell me what his movement numbers are. Tell me what his velo numbers are. I don't need to know his walk rate.
Well, then you will love Kyle Nicholas.
That's right, but I'm looking at my leaderboard for you guys, and the guy with the most command in that bullpen is Justin Brule. Brule?
Okay, you made your point. Let's move on.
I think if you actually write on our ticker right here, it should be coming up in a moment. He was just designated for assignment.
Oh, well, see, there you go.
Yeah. I guess if there's one thing that stands out to me on the Pirates in particular, it's the sliders. Is that by design? Like the Pirates are going out there and they're finding slider specific pitchers? Because I mean, you look at this list and every pitcher who throws a slider throws a good one, except Bailey Falter, basically. So does that kind give you kind of a sense of like, this is an
I think it's a slider league. I think that one of the biggest things about sliders is you need to have a pitch that you can throw in 2-0 that's not a fastball. And so if you tell me he has a good slider and he can command it, then I'm like, well, okay, well, now we've got a couple ideas. We don't have to throw the fastball when they want the fastball, And so I think that's probably on purpose for, when I think of, the average Pirates pitcher, they have a really good slider. Yeah.
Yeah. That was kind of the first thing. It was just when I just sorted it all, that popped out at me that everyone had a good one with Bailey. Something about Bailey Falter. The thing that gets talked about with Falter over and over and over again is, Rob says, being a weird guy is an accurate scouting report. Just the extension, right? So like, does something like that play into this at all? Because I mean, Bailey Falter's probably only in the league right now because he's got this elite extension that makes his fastball, instead of 92, it looks like it's 96 or just 97 or whatever it is. Is that something that the model takes into effect too, or is it more
100%? And it's definitely something that like a team like the Rays, they always lead the league in extension. So it's something that they care about too. For what it's worth, like his four seam is kind of cool on its own too, and I think that's why he's pretty four seam heavy. It's kind of a cut ride kind of deal where it doesn't have much. It's very straight, but it has ride, and then he's throwing it close to you. So it's like this weird thing that kind of comes at you and is a seed. It doesn't go side to side. It's kind of like, so his fastball is his best pitch, and that's why he has a job. And extension is, I think, really important. And, some teams I think have figured out what you can do with secondary pitches off of that. And I wonder if I'm not saying the Pirates haven't figured that out, but like, or maybe Falter hasn't or whatever, but like his secondaries aren't that good,
No.
And sometimes, like here's a guy that did this forever. Freddie Peralta. He was called Fastball Freddie, and he had great extension. He had more velo than Falter, but like he really throws it out there, and it's kind of a similar-ish fastball. And it took him a little bit of time, but I have a lot of faith in the Brewers player development system, and they managed to develop a curveball that came off of that, a changeup that came off that, a slider. So like, he's not really Fastball Freddie anymore, and he's really figured it out. So, but that's I think the good story of how like you can start with extension, start with a great fastball, and just build around it. That's what the Rays are trying to do with a lot of their guys.
So how sad are you that having this information and having how prevalent it is and where you want it to be at, that Carter Capps isn't in the league anymore? Because like I'm thinking like, you want to talk about breaking a model?
Extension.
How much did he break this model today?
Yeah.
Did they come out and never say if like his windup was illegal? Didn't they?
They did.
Didn't they made like a Carter Capps
Eventually.
rule?
Yeah, I think they did say something about it. But the other thing that he did when he was really good was throw an 84-mile-an-hour curveball. So that was another thing that Stuff Plus loves is throwing your curveball really hard. It loved Lance McCullers.
See, and that's what we're talking about the analytics. Like,
yeah.
I want to see that. I want that information, not just to talk about this crazy delivery.
It also ruined baseball because Lance McCullers can't stay healthy.
I mean, that's another thing, right? Like, you got these pitchers who are now throwing as hard as they possibly can, and it's leading to more injuries.
There's even kind of a joke that, like, well, I'm gonna go on the Major League IL. So there's people who kind of leave bullets in the chamber, get to the big leagues, throw as hard as they can. I mean, my most recent example of this is Cade Cavalli, like found a tick and a half when he got to the big leagues and pitched for like 2 weeks and then got TJ.
Yeah, I feel like he hasn't. Is he still out? I haven't heard anything about Cade Cavalli in a while.
Yeah, there's definitely like, if I get to the big leagues, I'm throwing as hard as I can for as long as I can, because big league IL money is $700,000 a year.
Right.
Yeah.
Minor league IL money is $30,000 a year. So I'm not gonna throw too hard down here. I'm throw hard enough to get called up to the bigs.
So one, you mentioned the AAA data, right? One pitcher that just came into AAA is probably the most interesting pitching prospect the Pirates have at the level. Do we have any, like, what Braxton Ashcraft is someone a lot of fans are super interested in? What how does
is Bubba Chandler not in AAA yet?
Bubba's in Double A,
Not yet.
Yeah, Braxton Ashcraft, 104 stuff, 99 locations. So that's pretty good. Sometimes you get guys, a lot of guys in AAA actually can't command their stuff. But let me break it down by pitch. Braxton Ashcraft, slider 130 stuff plus.
Ooh.
Curveball 116. Changeup 93, four seam 91. That sounds bad, but one thing you have to remember with Stuff Plus is the average pitch is 100 of all pitches, and so what you find is the average four seam fastball is actually around 96 Stuff Plus, and as you start looking at an average four seam fastball for a starter, it's actually kind of like 94 or 95. So if he's at 90, 91, that's totally doable. If he comes up and throws a little bit harder.
Yeah,
but I think that's a doable thing. It's two good breaking balls. It's a doable fastball. It will depend a little bit on, can he throw the slider for strikes and not throw the fastball. It's not, I've seen way worse fastball Stuff Pluses. Like that's doable.
You mean like Marco Gonzalez in the 61?
Yeah.
Martin Perez, 52.
I mean, isn't that
Holy
kind of
moly.
fun? Isn't it kind of fun to be like, you're like, well, I already knew that Marco Gonzalez had a bad fastball. And you're like, no, dude, it's like the worst in baseball.
You thought you knew.
Once you add it all up, it's really the worst.
Quinn Priester at a 54 too. I mean, his
Hmm.
fastball gets crushed. So it
Doesn't it
makes
seem
sense.
a little predictive, dude? Like,
Yeah.
'cause people were really excited about Quinn Priester, and I was like, I don't know, dude, that's the bad fastball. And then he came up, and you're like, everyone's like, oh yeah, actually, it is a bad fastball.
Yeah, 3 worst: Perez, Priester, Gonzalez. That checks out, I think.
Yeah.
All right. Denard, you got any more questions on Stuff Plus? I know we had one more topic we wanted to cover. So,
Not really, actually. That was really good, though.
yeah, that was super interesting. I think everybody's.
Yeah.
I think
Because
everybody.
I think too, like everyone who thinks they know Stuff Plus, no one knows stuff. Like, don't you don't. So that's why I was like really good having you on to dive in and talk about this stuff.
Yeah, no, good
Literally.
stuff. So the one thing I wanted to talk about today, to kind of on top of this, is there seems to be some sort of a media battle going on between Pirates ownership and the front office, and just kind of lay the groundwork here. John Parado from Pittsburgh Baseball Now reported 2 days ago, said that Bob Nutting implied, this is a quote from a Pirates front office member who was quote unquote furious, and that felt Nutting's comments were misleading, saying that Bob Nutting implied we're going to have money to spend. He got the fans excited, but he told us we don't have any money to make any significant additions. So that's one take from the front office. And then the next day, Dejan Kovacevic from DK Pittsburgh Sports, in his reporting here, says, first off, we should be prepared to move early. This is what Bob Nutting said. We should be prepared to move early. I think we should be prepared to take advantage of opportunities when they arise. I know Ben has the flexibility to look across a broader range of alternatives, options, but also a timeline of when it makes sense. He also goes on to say that when he spoke to the media, every sentiment within that was discussed internally to make sure it aligned with the goals of Cherington and baseball operations. And then it also says here that according to ownership, according to Travis Williams, according to anybody he's talking to, the money is there to be spent. And again, it's significant money. I've communicated with those running the franchise more than any reporter in our region over 2 decades, blah, blah, blah. They know it's there. They talk about it openly, but they also defer to Cherington. So yeah, basically it seems like we've got a front office member leaking to one reporter, hey, Bob Nutting said we've got this money to spend, and we don't. Then you got another reporter who's being leaked information from the ownership side. No, money's there. They're just deciding not to spend it. So, as an outsider, hearing this, what is kind of your first impression on all that stuff?
The major frustration, I think, as a fan or as a writer or as anybody who likes baseball, is just the opacity that it comes with finances, where it's just we don't know, and we can sort of guess. So one of the things that we can do is like look at what they've done, and I would say that they've ramped up their spending. So 2021, they were 30th, $50 million payroll. 2022, 61, 2023, 72. This year, opening day said 86 million. So, there's ways that like both sides could be right? Like he is spending more. 86 million. It was 50 million 3 years ago. Like he's spending more. There's more money there. And like 36 million is not nothing. It does feel like that when you're like, well, there's teams out here with 300 million, dude. Like, what's going on?
Right.
Like, you spend like 5 million more. Okay, all right, but they also, and I think this is where Ben comes into it. I think Ben's leadership is about creating some sort of, kind of sustainable. I don't think 30 million in 2 years is, well, I guess inflation's pretty intense, but yeah. But I think one of Ben's things is like he's trying to create a sustainable thing, and so I don't know, these don't grab the headlines, but they like hired away the director of R&D from the Astros and Sarah Gillis, and like, you know, they've been competitive on the open market with bigger teams when it comes to front office salaries. And now that can be easier because you're talking about, okay, we'll give this person, and I'm not saying that I know these salary numbers, but you could say for a front office person, we'll give this person $200,000 when other people are offering them 150, and we'll get them away. But he is being competitive with these people, and he is hiring people away. He hired a director of scouting away from the Boston Red Sox, who do spend money, you know, although they're mad there because they don't spend 300 and they spend 220. Like, so you know what I'm saying? Right. Like there's a certain level, like people are always going to be mad. That's one part. Bob Nutting has not spent a lot, and I don't think he'll ever have a $160 million payroll or 150 even. I don't think that's in the cards. So if you're like waiting for Bob Nutting to have a top half payroll, I think everybody here knows that's not happening. But could he push it up to 100 million payroll? Has he spent some money on front office people that were attractive front office people? I mean, the director of R&D for the Houston Astros is an attractive person to hire away. I'm not talking about looks. I'm talking about like that's somebody you want. The Houston Astros have killed it R&D wise. That person's available. Yes, I want them. Did I pay an extra $50,000, $60,000, whatever it is, to get them? Yes. So this is how you get leaks from different parts of the front office. You might even get someone who's like mad that they didn't get the $50,000 raise and someone got hired, right? You know, you get someone who's really fixated on the pro payroll and is saying we were promised $100 million payroll and we're not there. So people are kind of focused on their little. A lot of times they're focused on their bandbox, their little spot, and so that's how you get people that might all be telling the truth, quote unquote, like as they see it. But from what I understand, I think this payroll will get to 100, 110, 120 million at some point. They want to make that commensurate with their winning. You know, they did that before, right? They were winning. They pushed the payroll a little bit. I'm not saying they're going to push it to 150. I'm just saying they'll push it a little bit. You know, and even something as silly as signing Marco Gonzalez and Martin Perez, and a lot of that was like, hey, took actual millions of dollars, you know, that we spent, and we did it because we thought we're getting a little bit better, and we might want to raise the floor a little bit. We might want to have a maybe Martin Perez, we get the good one. Maybe we get a good year out of Marco Gonzalez. And so, you know, they're showing the signs of like turning the corner. Like they released Rodolfo Castro. That's weird if you are perennial rebuild and you're pinching pennies and all you want is a cheap guy. But if you're like, no, we're about to be good and we might actually sign someone that might be better than this, and we've decided that we don't like Castro, like then you let him go because you're getting better and you're starting to have better guys come up. So anyway, long story short, I think they'll get to 100, 110, 120 at some point. I think they're spending some money when it comes to the front office. I don't want to call anybody wrong or right on this one because I can see how different people. I could see somebody being like, you know, they promised us actual payroll money and we're at 90 million and we're at 29th or 28th in the big leagues again. So like that was a lie or whatever. And I could see some jealousy being part of it, or you know, just being like, yeah, we spent an extra $200,000 on the front office, but we didn't get an actual, you know, whatever it is, fill in the blank. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. No, I mean it's weird because you know they're two very contradicting statements. So it's like which do you believe? And you bring up a good point that like both sides could actually be true here. When I first saw it, I was like, this sounds like a front office who is almost like kind of getting desperate and wants to spin a narrative because they maybe realize that what they're doing isn't working. So they're trying to say like, hey, this isn't even our fault. We just don't have any money to do what we need to do. But then you look at the other way, and there's no reason to trust this ownership with anything that they say at all. Like there's no reason for me or any Pirates fan to trust anything that comes out of Bob Nutting's mouth. There just isn't. And like payroll did get up to like, I think it topped out at like 105 in like 2015 or 2016.
Yeah, but I'm doing inflation again under one.
Yeah. So it's like, so it's like, why can't we be there? Like, why can't we at least be there? That was 10 years ago, right?
Yeah, that's true.
If you account for inflation, we're like half that, right?
Right.
But I don't know what the exact number is, but yeah, like I don't see why this team can't be pushing 120. Like, yeah, like I said, I'm not asking. No one's asking for a top half, payroll, but
just be bottom third.
Yeah, just be top 25, maybe. Like,
I do think that that there is I do think it's fair to start to want more results on the field and to like want more money put into the team. And I think that this year they showed some signs of, they're more competitive this year. Last year they had the good first half and then they kind of fell in the tank. This year it's been a little bit more up and down. I think next year's big for them. It's going to be, can you spend $100 million? Can you put together a team that, actually goes to the postseason? This year it could still happen. They're in the mix. Everybody in the National League is in the mix. So they just need to they need to get hot. They need to call out Braxton Ashcraft.
There you go.
We've said multiple times there's no reason for him to throw another inning in AAA right now.
Did you hear that, Anthony Murphy?
Yeah.
No, definitely. I think they've already done the hardest part, which is put together, a really solid top of the rotation, which like you just got to get to the playoffs at this point. Get to the playoffs and just turn those guys loose and see how far they can take you.
And maybe buy, a player at the deadline that you'll have for a couple years. So not someone that's a rental, I saw a rumor. I don't know if it was substantiated or whatever. The Taylor Ward rumor, was that just like out of left field or this?
He's certainly somebody that they've talked about.
It's going to cost a little bit more, and he's the right fielder you wanted, and he's going to be a credible bat that goes in that lineup and doesn't embarrass himself, and he'll be under contract, next year. Mm-hmm. So like, why not do something like that? By thinking about next year as well. So, and I think they kind of have to focus on offense. They need a little bit of help offense wise. Yeah, Varsho's interesting.
That's my target right there. Yeah.
Well, it's not good for the guys who think analytics ruin baseball because he's going to hit 210 or whatever.
That's true.
But he's going to hit tons of jacks and be a center fielder, and
he'll be like what we hoped Michael A. Taylor was going to be. But
or
there you go. Yeah.
I love Jack. I feel like just give him one more chance.
Hey, I was saying he was a 2024. I've been on the Jack Swinski bandwagon,
and then he like cut the strikeout rate at the beginning of this year, and I was like, oh, it's right there for you.
What's funny is we have Jim on record on this show, like actually about 4 months ago, saying that Jack Swinski will have a beter season. No, not better. Jack Swinski is better than Brian Reynolds.
Oh. Yeah.
So I just
want
to remind you once again,
could
Jim,
be. I'll throw could be in there.
Hey, Jack Swinski last year had a higher WAR than Brian Reynolds.
Yeah, I mean he's good defensively. He's got
making
speed,
everybody saying
power.
If WAR says Jack Swinski's better than Brian Reynolds, then WAR is. No
the big thing with him, I think, is he just alternates. He's either going to miss everything or he's going to hit for he's going to miss everything and hit for power, or make contact and hit for no power. Like it's just one or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's weird.
I mean, you guys know. You guys are watching. I watch a lot of Pirates baseball, actually. I'm fascinated by them.
The pitching is fun. The hitting, not so much.
Yeah, right.
So let me kind of leave you with this. Paul Skeens. Top 3 pitcher in baseball today.
Ooh. Let me look at my rankings real quick.
Like, I want to know. No, get the rankings out of here.
I
want to know. Get in Eno's head. Are you ready to claim Paul Skeens base
Well,
top 3 pitcher in baseball?
I'm trying to throw together my top 3. And if we're not concerned with the number of innings left, because I have fantasy rankings, and like I have to concern myself with how many innings are left.
Okay.
Pound for pound. We're talking pound for pound. Yes. Pound for pound, my top 3 would be Tyler Glasnow, Paul Skeens. It gets rough here, so like Scooble Wheeler Burns, one of those guys. But there you have my top 5, I guess.
There you go.
Love it.
I have a projection system that's based on Stuff Plus, and he has Tyler Glasnow has the best projection, 2.91 ERA projected using Stuff Plus. Paul Skeens is second, has a 3.1.
There you go.
I mean, that doesn't sound so impressive because he has better than the 3.1 right now, and he's like doing better than that.
1.9.
Right, I know, but like you wouldn't project a guy like
right.
Let me just take the number out of it. And just like he has the second best projected ERA among starters in baseball. So yeah,
love it.
Pretty good.
I'm calling him
after
top
11 starts. Yeah,
yeah,
it's impressive. Yeah.
Cool. Well, anything else, Jim?
I'm good.
Yeah, I gotta go.
This was fun though. This was super informative.
Yeah.
This was a good show. Thanks for joining us,
me, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it. For everyone else, thank you guys for joining and watching. We'll see you tomorrow for another baseball game. So, bye-bye.
See you guys.
Hey, you all. Thank you for watching. I know we try to provide the most entertaining content that we can, and we'd love to spread it to as many people as possible. So I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but if you could take the 5 seconds to like this video and subscribe to the page, it helps out so much more than you know. Thank you, and let's go Bucks.